Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris J, and we are talking about this mighty full moon that is upon us. We are already being pulled into it. There is so much going on. We know this. There is a lot changing, evolving, happening. It is happening everywhere on the globe, and it is an intense period. Let's just name it as that, okay? And of course it is. This is coming out of a Libra eclipse. This is a full moon that is coming as Pluto has very recently stationed direct, which happens on October 11th. And this is leading us into a very powerful new moon, a Scorpio new moon, that is just continuing this cosmic conversation. So if you are feeling overwhelmed or you're just feeling the mighty transformative presence, you are just attuned to this major moment, okay? And it is a lot, and let's talk about it so that we can have a little bit more of co-creative presence with what's going on, okay? Because I also right away, there is a lot out there that is kind of doomsday worst case scenario, astro fear cultivating with this full moon. Are there reasons for that? For sure. Is it necessarily that? No. Is it necessarily that? Especially when we're looking to archetypal astrology and evolutionary astrology for guidance on our spiritual journeys? Absolutely not. Okay? So it is intense energy, and there are big conversations happening. But the interpretive lens actually really doesn't lend itself to this is kind of doomsday, everything bad is going to happen. Are difficult things going to emerge? Most likely. And how we meet them and how we meet ourselves meeting them, more accurately put, that's everything, right? And especially when we work with astrology as a practice of self-inquiry, it opens us to new dimensions. And also, when we really sit with an honest, co-creative, listening to the archetypes, interpretive lens with this full moon, it is not doomsday, okay? And let's look at why I am saying that to you. So I do want to put the chart up because it's important to kind of glimpse this visual. If you are hearing meows and or purrs, Romeo is right here. If this is your first time on my channel and I'm just talking about Romeo, Romeo is a neighborhood cat who has taken it upon himself, which I am very grateful for, to shower me and you with love, because he tends to show up when I'm doing YouTube videos and when I'm giving readings. Though this morning he also woke me up because he wanted love. But anyway, Romeo is here. You might already have heard him. It's going to be sad when I have to leave, but let's not talk about that. Okay. Let's talk about astrology and not cats. Okay, here we go. Here is a chart. So just so that you have a visual, we are talking about the sun at 24 degrees of Libra, conjunct Juno, opposite the moon at 24 degrees of Aries, conjunct Eris, and also conjunct Chiron. We are going to talk about that. And this full moon is squaring Pluto, freshly direct, at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and also Mars at 22 degrees of Cancer. Okay, so there's our grand cross. There's our mighty conversation. There's other layers as well that we'll talk about. But let's weave, as we do, a little bit about what's opening. So we start with the full moon, okay? Now we've got our sun in Libra. It's Libra season. Coming out of that Libra eclipse, South Node is in Libra. We have been working the one-on-one realms. I know that you've been working it because I am talking to folks and I'm working it and I'm talking to folks who are working it and really working to show up so honestly with ourselves and others, not holding back out of fear and belief that we need to people please, holding ourselves accountable to ourselves and to the relationship and to the other so that we can actually manifest new, honest relationships for beauty, for compassion, having compassion with ourselves and with others. We've been working on this. And now we're coming into this full moon, a new cycle, something coming into illumination. That moon is in Aries. But first, we also have the sun conjunct Juno, okay, our divine feminine asteroid, suggesting that there is something about this full moon moment that is about deep commitment, deep integrity, commitment to ourselves, because our relationship with ourself is always part of Libra, and also especially to those that we really want to show up for and with in our life, and also potentially just how we want to show up with life. Something about deep integrity. That's what Juno really comes to represent for us, how we claim that integrity. Also with Juno, especially when we're reclaiming her from especially the patriarchal lens and self-internalization of patriarchy that was very present in our kind of reception of the ancient myths of Juno, not martyring oneself. Juno learns that because when Juno martyrs herself, what she did for her husband, who is a horrid husband, he did everything that we would like husbands not to do, that being Zeus. She would silence herself with him, and she would take her anger out on innocent women that he victimized. So we reclaim that in this evolving consciousness that evolutionary astrology and just archetypal astrology brings us into when we co-create with the archetypes rather than just kind of putting them into fixed stereotypes. There's a big difference between that. And she becomes this growing into this integrity that is really honest with herself. And then by being honest with herself, she can be honest with others. And that's how she really fulfills her ancient role as the matriarch of committed partnership. And that sun, solar energy, vitality around that importance of relationship and committed integrity is opposite our full moon at 24 degrees of Aries. So right away, we know that there's something about our own sacred self, our own sacred impulses that is coming into illumination, that is coming into fullness, that we are getting to glimpse. We have had so much work in our Libra realms, and now we need to look at ourselves. Okay, so right there, even if all our pop beautiful astrologers are talking about how explosive this energy is, we see that there is something that wants to be illuminated about ourself. And that wants to be in conversation with our own emotions. This is the moon, our own inner world, how we claim our primal fires in a way that allow us to show up with integrity. And that's conjunct Eris and Chiron. Now, Eris was the goddess of strife and discord traditionally. Now, when it comes to interpreting Eris, I have to just give a shout out to this incredible video that an incredible astrologer, Heather Ensworth, made, I think around a year ago, where she really just goes through the history of the discovery and the naming of Eris. And in this really gorgeous interpretation, shows how she was originally, by who she was discovered by, to be named after Xena, the princess warrior. Those of a certain generation are going to remember Xena. We know her. And that name was changed once it came to the Astronomical Association to Eris, okay? And Heather Ensworth's interpretation there is really lovely, showing how the shift of bringing her from a spiritual warrior to the goddess of strife was actually kind of a manifestation of a patriarchal lens of power coming into the very interpretive lens, which in my own work, I show how that interpretive lens is very present in disciplines of psychology and other disciplines. Ensworth was showing it there in terms of kind of the science interpretive lens and the way that it's unconsciously present and how data itself is interpreted. And so that right there is really important. And I am influenced quite a bit by her reading of Eris. And that said, I think we need to hold both, kind of the origin story of how she comes into human consciousness, especially when we're talking about evolutionary astrology, because that human consciousness piece is really important. And that there was this kind of incredible gifting of this spiritual warrior that then becomes the goddess of strife and discord. And also with Eris, it's, you know, when we hold that she does hold that power of strife and discord, she also shows us how, you know, sometimes that energy is necessary to break down what needs to break down. And so instead of it just kind of being this doomsday, everything's going to just, the ground's going to fall out. We can also work with her very intentionally as to how there is something that may need to break down. And she's conjunct the moon in Aries within ourself. Okay, now, if we don't want to sit with ourselves, if we don't want to sit with our emotions, if we are not doing that spiritual warrior work that is learning, like we're all doing, sitting with our emotions, what does Aries do when it's acting out of fear? And that's often a fear of itself. It can lash out. Okay, so right there, how we respond in this way during this time period is going to depend upon where we're at in our own journeys. And so we have that kind of energy there with her, conjunct the moon. And who else is there? Our wounded healer, our most integrated, wise elder of the ancient world, Chiron. So there is something about our ongoing healing journey. And there may be something, most likely there definitely is something, because this is coming out of eclipse season, within our own self-awareness, within our own kind of primal relationship with ourself, that, you know, when we're talking about Aries, that relationship with ourself, it precedes thought. Aries doesn't think about what it's doing. Aries wants to feel its impulse and it wants to act. And in an ideal world, Aries archetypes get brought up, you know, and we all have Aries in our chart, being nourished to kind of connect mind, heart, and gut so that it can connect to higher self. And then it just goes and it's actually being pushed out by the final sign of the zodiac, which is Pisces, that pushes it into the birthing of Aries. And Aries is coming from that divine birth. And it's aligned to soul and it's coming into this plane to do that human thing. But a lot of us don't grow up or live in a society that nurtures that heart, mind, gut alignment to soul source. So Aries can get confused. And that's where Aries can get confused about where should I show up and where should I not show up, or where have I not been allowed to show up. And Aries confusion can manifest all sorts of ways, especially in the body and in headaches. And Aries is best when it gets to move itself. So there is quite a lot of Aries energy, and you may feel that you need to move the body. Now, that said, we all have different abilities with our body. And so for some people, that might be very kind of rigorous movement for 20 minutes. For others, it might be a very slow breath kind of yin practice. So you work with where your own body, mind, energy is at. But it is important to move the energy with this full moon, given that it's Aries. And sometimes moving that energy is done through an art practice or a nice little journal rant. Aries can like a journal rant. You don't have to read it after. You can just do it and close it. You can burn it. This is Aries energy. Burning anything that you write is lovely ritual work during this full moon. But there is this energy of healing, something within ourself that's also simultaneously potentially coming from breaking down, potentially breaking down from all the work that we've been doing in this Libra season so that we can show up with more integrity. Okay, so that's the core foundation. And now that conversation gets upped to the next level because it's squaring Pluto, who's opposite Mars. Okay, now this is also important because this story between Pluto and Mars is just starting, and it's actually going to go well into 2025. So Mars and Pluto are going to be in their exact opposition on our Scorpio new moon on November 1st. So I'm already looking forward to talking with you about that. But just knowing that we're in process, nothing is final, okay? It's in process. And then we're going to have, because Mars is going to go into its retrograde, it's going to go into Leo, it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to go back through Cancer. So we are learning about Mars in Cancer. Very important. Because of that, Mars is going to have 3 oppositions with Pluto, but this is the only one that's in Capricorn, okay? That new moon, Pluto will still be in Capricorn, but the next 2 conversations between Mars and Pluto are going to be with both of them in Aquarius, okay? And that is going to be in January and in April of 2025. So this is also just planting the beginning of this deep transformation of our own personal desire and how we act and how that relates to a much bigger soul collective journey. And that is also part of this full moon. And so in that respect, we are also in our personal journeys of that Aries Libra axis of what it means to show up with our full sacred Aries primal fires and how they relate to our relationships with integrity. It's so important because it's talking to Pluto, transiting Pluto, who is representing the collective soul that then we feel individually at this incredible moment when Pluto has gestation direct in Capricorn. And that is talking to Mars, who's always connected archetypally to Pluto. And Mars is on a journey of relearning what it means to take that active drive principle, that which is traditionally thought of in astrology as kind of the sacred masculine. I like to work with it as yang energy. And what it means to turn that yang energy into care for self and others. So often we are taught this kind of intrinsic binary that either we're in this particular place of caring, Cancer, and traditionally that's read as the feminine place, and we're not working there. We're just relaxing. Or we're in this traditional masculine place, and that's when we're working, right? And that's traditionally read as Capricorn in that binary. And Mars comes into the yang place of how we work. Note that Mars rules Aries. Another layer unfolds. But Mars in Cancer is so wonderful, and so wonderful for us that we have a retrograde, because we get to relearn how that binary is BS. I'm laughing because I heard it said a little less gently in my head before I said that. That binary is BS and comes directly out of thousands of years of patriarchy. And the work that it takes to nourish ourselves and others, the work that it takes to care, to live a life of caring, rather than just shutting down emotion and kind of plowing through, which is what so many of us are taught is valuable, is taught is strength. Mars in Cancer reworks what actual strength is in a very nourishing place that actually takes incredible strength to do, to sit with our emotions, and not react. That takes so much, and that adds a layer to what we're learning in this Aries full moon, because the ruler of that Aries full moon is Mars, and Mars is in Cancer. And that Mars is undergoing a transformation with Pluto, who is itself transforming as it moves from Capricorn to Aquarius. And so we are in the midst of this incredible transformational process of what it actually means to care, of what it means to take care of ourselves and others, what it means to show up in a way that is so important for the collective, because Pluto is finishing its journey through Capricorn. November 19th, Pluto go into Aquarius. We're 20 years journeying there, right? And here we're getting this seed at this full moon that's going to pick up in the new moon of that Mars and Pluto conversation that then we're going to work with through 2025 as Pluto's just started its journey into Aquarius. So this is ongoing, but it's so important. All of our individual journeys are so important for the collective. You know, I was talking with a friend today, and we were just sharing on how incredible it is to get to work with people one-on-one, and especially those of us, and I know we a lot on this channel, who fall through the cracks of society, who for so many various intersecting reasons get taught that we don't belong, get taught that we should be different, that get taught that because we're not like so and so who's put up on a pedestal and is part of a 1% that actually keeps the 1% as the 1% and keeps outdated systems from breaking down, that there's something wrong with us. And what a gift it is when we connect in that one-on-one space, how I'm connecting with you digitally right now, because YouTube is amazing because we get to connect one-on-one and collectively. And just say, this is what matters. This is what's real. Not all of that facade that gets put on display. Not the facade of whatever it is we're supposed to be like. No, Pluto will have none of that. Pluto is what's real. And that is part of why Pluto has been put into a box and talked about as things that Pluto isn't necessarily, because Pluto is just what's real and how we're opening. And Pluto's going into Aquarius, and we're coming into a whole new evolution of what's real and how we're going to feel that individually and collectively. And so honoring yourself, honoring what you've come from, honoring your own challenges, honoring how you're just here right now and things are changing. Okay, and that doesn't mean it's easy. We know it's not easy. All we have to do is look on the news for about 4 seconds, not even, and we know it's not easy. And Pluto really doesn't work with words like easy or good and bad. None of the outer planets do. Okay, it could be argued that none of the archetypes do, but especially the outer planets. And it is real. And yet, as we come into practices like archetypal, evolutionary, embodied astrology, as we, whatever our other spiritual practices are, whatever it is that helps us connect to ourself and earth and source and each other, those binaries do tend to dissolve, and we just meet the present moment in a different way. And that's the evolving consciousness. And this moment in human history is all about the evolving consciousness. Pluto is moving into Aquarius. Pluto is direct. We are just moving. Neptune and Saturn are going to be moving into Aries together in 2025, 2026. It's an incredible moment. Okay, and so coming into it, as we come into it, I did put up what I think is a really lovely sound healing meditation. So on my Patreon space, I am gifted with working with a gorgeous musician, Nora Michael, who is doing sound healing with the frequencies of the planets. And I put up a free one just for Pluto stationing direct, so you can access it just by joining for free, just because I think that we all need some healing. Pluto, it is a guided meditation, that one. Usually they're just listening to the sounds, but I'm doing a guided breath meditation with the Pluto frequency. Listening to that any point from now on through the full moon is probably helpful for the nervous system. And on that note, let's just call it in and remember the nervous system is incredibly important to care for during this time. So all of those practices that support your nervous system are also going to support tuning into this energy. Okay, I'm sending out so much love. Romeo is here now purring. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's sending out love as well. And blessings, 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 full moon blessings. Bye.